we're back, episode 10. We've made it 10 episodes, guys. We're getting ready to go wrestling with the business. We got Adam, we got Jeremy, we got Matt, and of course we got myself. We're getting ready to kick it off here for another episode. We're going to talk about, is the Bloodline too much? What's going on with the Raw roster and the injury to Braun Strowman. So much more to go on with that. So roll that intro. And we're back, episode 10, Wrestling with the Business. Guy, before we go into all the other stuff, what happened this week on all the live shows? We got anything exciting?
A lot of interesting stuff happened on SmackDown this week. We had, obviously, lots of progress on the Bloodline, big changes. Paul Heyman making an offer to Jay to basically take over as the new head of the table when Roman steps down. Trying to tempt him against his brother Jimmy, sort of angling Jimmy as the hothead that's making decisions just for him and is dragging Jay along. So some interesting progress on that front that eventually led to a main event in which Austin Theory and Jay went head-to-head, and Jay obviously did not win the United States Championship and therefore has to go back to the head of the table empty-handed. So that's interesting. We also had some interesting developments on the NXT Women's Tag Championship front. Fire Isla, as I'm calling them, came out with their NXT Championships, and basically to celebrate, out comes Rousey and Baszler saying that they want to do a unification match.
Of course.
And so that's basically set up now. They accept, so it's heel versus heel, I guess, for a championship unification.
I think Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are kind of tweeners at this point.
They seem heely to me, but I guess time will tell. Maybe they'll be angled that way. And we also had an interesting change on the Raw Women's Championship front. Got traded out for a brand new belt, looking suspiciously like the Men's World Championship belt.
Madness.
In addition, we had Charlotte Flair return and challenge Asuka, getting a belt challenge right out of the gate.
They don't care about the women unless it's Charlotte Flair.
Nope, apparently not. And we had, I think, our final week for the men's Money in the Bank. This week for the men's Money in the Bank, we had Butch go over Baron Corbin. And for the women, we had Bayley go over Minchin. We had Io Sky go over Shotzi. So I think the men are set, and the women, I think there's one left to crown. And that leads us into Raw.
Well, there was one qualify left on Raw, which we saw Damian Priest.
Right. Yes. Sorry. Yes.
So good match against Matt Riddle. Probably one of the better matches for the night.
That was the curtain jerk, wasn't it?
No, the curtain jerk was Cody Rhodes.
Oh, and the Miz.
Miz.
Yeah.
So yeah, no. Raw starts off. We yet again see another brand new belt reveal. Apparently Triple H is sick of doing them because he sent Adam Pearce out to do it.
Yes.
So even he's getting bored of this. But yes, this sets up what we kind of saw coming. Cody Rhodes, Dom Mysterio set up for Money in the Bank. As we wait for the need, I guess, for Brock Lesnar to return. That again, no one's asking for or wants. Yeah. Good intense match between Rhodes and The Miz to kick Raw off. Becky Lynch comes out for a match and it sucked. Guys, is it me or is the women's quality in the WWE, their matches just tanking?
Yeah, they're not getting it.
Well, again, if your name's not Charlotte Flair, they don't care.
Well, at one point, it was a highlight of the show. They were stealing the shows.
Mm-hmm.
And
especially Becky.
So I don't blame them bringing Charlotte Flair back because she'll go in and give them a 5-star match. But
are they tanking because of the match quality or because of the booking?
It could be either way, but I mean,
I think they're lacking storylines.
When you've got a 48-second match at a premium live event, that's a
Charlotte Flair can only win the title so many times until it gets they're starting to get a little stale. She's got to.
That's what I'm saying. Right. I don't want to get into my rant, but this is related to my rant. You're right. I agree.
Okay. We'll table that for your rant for later. And they had another great main event. Owens and Zayn versus Imperium. But again, I have to ask, this is what, third week in a row that we've had a Zayn or Owens versus the Gunther faction. Is it starting to get overdone? Is it starting to get silly and boring?
Yeah, they got to do it every which way they can until the pay-per-view.
Obviously, the in-ring quality, just because of the people who they are, is going to be fantastic. But just to see it over and over and over again.
There's a reason for that. We'll talk about later in the show.
So
We got some data related to that.
But yeah, just over an hour of in-ring action, no 6-man tags.
Yay!
So the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships are gone. What are they calling the new titles?
World champion, women's world champion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both
Yeah.
of them?
WWE Women's Championship and then
And then the world's champion.
Okay.
Yeah, and Rhea Ripley's new title looks very much like Seth Rollins'
With the white belt
with
instead.
the white strap. Yeah.
But before we get into AEW real quick, do we not think that's the right move? Like, are they finally doing the right thing with the titles and freshen them up a little
I
bit?
mean, they looked a lot alike before. The men's and the women's titles, you really couldn't tell.
I don't think there's anything wrong with them looking alike. I don't think.
No, I don't have any problem with
I mean, if
Like
you're
the
gonna do
women-
one, you should do the other. And they took it away. They debranded it.
Right, so they've taken
That's
the
what they
brands
did.
away.
They
So now it's no
debranded
longer.
it.
Which I think it was kind of weird having a on the Raw Women's Champion
Well,
on
it's
the
weird.
SmackDown.
It's
Right.
weird doing it in the context of this coming on the heels of the draft.
I do like the new. Those can now go to different shows. They're not. I mean, the women's world champion could end up on Raw, or the WWE Women's Champion could end up on SmackDown, or flip-flop.
Theoretically, yes.
I mean, it can go
Yeah.
anywhere now.
Not that
Like,
that stopped them before.
Right.
You
They
know.
just changed the color of the belt
Right.
the last time.
They're freshening it up. I think they have to.
All right, so AEW. As per usual, a great, excellent episode of Dynamite this week. Big standouts was the curtain jerk was a rare in-ring match with the world champ MJF versus Adam Cole. I mean, I think you said it best off air. This match was a barn burner.
Oh,
This was a great match. At one point, there's a ref bump. MJF tries the classic Eddie Guerrero spot with the chair, tosses the chair to Adam Cole, and then just takes a bump and like he's knocked out. Just as the ref starts to get up, he falls again because he's too hurt. So Adam Cole has the chair and he uses it, knocks MJF out. That was a great spot. They went back and forth a bit more, and then Cole finally gets the upper hand, gets the 1, 2, bell rings, time limit draw.
it's building heat.
It is. Adam Cole asks for 5 more minutes, and MJF just walks away. Not going to happen. So we'll see where that goes. Another interesting thing was Sammy Guevara. So they're getting into a tough spot with Sammy. Sammy came out the good guy side of the tunnel. Everyone's cheering because he's got a new baby on the way, but when he talks about going for the world title, they're still booing him. So the AEW is really trying to push him as a babyface, but it's not working with the crowd. So hopefully they don't drag this out like a Roman Reigns situation from years ago. And then the other thing, other than a couple matches being made for Forbidden Door, the other thing that really stood out is Jungle Boy. A couple weeks ago, he's going for the world title. Now he's fallen back down the card and really seems even in worse shape than he did when he was in that title match. He had a promo with Hook where he accepted an open challenge for the IWGP World Championship at Forbidden Door. But during the promo, he's back there with Hook, and he actually said the line, "Hook, not only are you my tag partner, but you're my best friend." Kind of lame duck for
Great writers at AEW.
Should they split the pillars? Send two of them to Collision?
They're going to have to. I mean, again, Sammy Guevara, Jungle Boy, like I said it before the pay-per-view, Darby Allin's really the only one who seems like a natural contender for the world title. These other guys, they're way down the card at this point. So, like I said, a couple other matches added for Forbidden Door. We'll talk about those later.
No women?
There was a women's title match, Toni Storm versus Sky Blue. It was actually a really good match. Sky Blue got a lot in that match and really came out looking good, even in defeat. But overall, great episode.
I think for Sammy, I think he is like Roman, where I think they prefer to see him as a heel.
Yeah,
He's a good heel.
he's a natural heel.
He's a great heel. Like you watch it, a lot of his YouTube videos that popped up on my thing for some bizarre reason. So I've actually watched a few of them. He's actually entertaining. And, he does all his web series now. But I think he makes a good heel. I think he always has made a good heel.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's one of those they don't want him to go heel. So trying to be forced as a face, I just don't think it's. I don't think they're gonna. I think they may finally
crowd's
have a
just gonna boo
WWE
him more.
situation where the fans don't want it. You know.
Are we not going to talk about the Sting Jericho face-off? It blew up the internet. That's
With-
all I saw for
With the
about.
ugly Jericho heels he was wearing.
Yeah, but no, I'm serious. All my social media. That's all I saw after that happened.
It was trending on Twitter
was.
after
Didn't he
the
say
MJF
no,
fight.
Jericho? I thought Jericho came out and said no. I will not fight unless that's a
That's
a
a
bit.
heel move.
There-
That's the heel
No,
move.
no. What?
It looks like they're setting up a tag match for next week. Sting and Darby, or that's what Jericho was asking for. Sting and Darby versus
Sammy
Jericho and Sammy.
Yep.
Because Jericho is trying to tell Sammy he needs to stay in the JAS, so
Right,
they're
right.
reforming the tag team, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to lead towards a Jericho versus Sammy match.
He's gonna face turn and
Right.
Okay.
So Sammy kind of outgrowing the group now.
Right,
Now
the whole-
that he's had the world title shot, he's kind of growing.
What
a little.
led to this was Darby coming out and telling Sammy, you don't need the JAS. The crowd is starting to cheer you, which wasn't really true. But yeah, they're really trying to push Sammy breaking off from Jericho. I don't know if there's going to be a Jericho Sting match.
I think with all the attention it got, I think it would be. I think there's, and Sting has been very vocal about retiring soon.
But right after that, Sting was in an 8-man tag, and he was not looking good. So if it's going
Which
to
is
happen,
why he
it's
wants
got to
to
happen.
retire.
Yeah,
Sting.
it's gonna
Is he
happen
gonna
soon.
look good in any
62
match
years
that
old.
he's in?
Yeah, he's 62 years old. I mean, give the guy a break. But
No, I'm
yeah.
not saying that. I'm saying if it's going to happen, it's got to happen soon.
Does it look like it's
Yeah.
going to end up with
And-
a Jericho Sammy match?
But,
I think so.
But
Yeah.
Jericho also, he kind of half plays character on his social media, half does his Jericho thing. He went right out there, reposted it, and said, "Epic moment, Sting, stay out of my way."
Maybe they'll
So-
do one eventually, but I think
Yeah.
the major story is him and Sammy right now.
I think that's
Right.
going to be a great match.
Jericho
Well,
and
I'm
Sting.
sure
I
it will
think
be
it would be
Sammy,
a great
yeah.
match.
But
I think great storyline, whether he comes off as a good face or not, and a great match between those two.
I'm just throwing it out there with the attention that face-off got, and knowing that Sting's looking to end it really soon. I can see it happening.
Let's transition to news and rumors because I heard that Jericho got arrested
Good for him.
for being drunk and
Really?
being outrageous after a show.
Listen,
I gotta see if I
he
can
is
find
the,
the
he
source.
is the Fozzy frontman.
It's about time.
He's got to live
he's
that
the
rock star
quarantine-
lifestyle.
What do they say? Act your wage.
He's the Quarantine Kiss cover band frontman. Give a rock star a break.
Well, while you look up that, we'll cover a couple other news and highlights. Falls Count Anywhere came out last Monday. We did an episode on straight edge culture, which actually was really interesting. But this week, unlike WWE, we're giving our attention to the women of wrestling. Going to do a little history lesson on women's wrestling in general and talk about where the product stands today. And I mean, I don't know about you guys. I'm a fan of today's women for the most part, if they were presented better, but we'll get into that at Falls Count Anywhere on Monday.
Sounds interesting. Real quick, ratings. Raw 1.75 to 1.45, so a consistent drop from hour 1 to 2 to 3. SmackDown 2.28, so that's down from I think 2.6 the week before. And then AEW, all of them were down. AEW was down, I think, from 903 down to 832,000. So
I mean, you also wrapping up this week. You had the Stanley Cup Finals, the NBA Finals.
NBA Finals was during Raw, so that
Yeah.
was that.
You know.
So I mean, you know what? I think you're getting into the summer blues too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna be, you're
Yeah.
gonna find it's always that people aren't gonna be rushing home on a Friday night to watch SmackDown or Saturday to watch Collision when that starts, or on a
No one's
Monday.
even going to Collision the way it looks.
Yeah.
Not the second and third episode, yeah.
But just a few small things that we already talked about.
Hang
Sports-
on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have to follow up on the Jericho
Yeah.
thing because I just found this, and this is hysterical, guys. Speaking on the Jim Cornette's Experience podcast, Jim Cornette read a letter out loud sent by a fan detailing a hotel incident concerning Jericho. The incident allegedly took place in Belfast and resulted in Jericho's arrest due to aggressive behavior while he was intoxicated. A good friend who is a police officer in the Police Service of Northern Ireland contacted me and showed me body cam footage of a drunken, aggressive, and flexing man in the corridor of a local hotel in Belfast. The man in question was Chris Jericho. Police were called after reports of loud music, aggression towards hotel staff, and generally disturbing the peace coming from the hotel. Guys, it gets better. He was staying in, and my friend was one of the officers to respond. Quote, my friend recognized Jericho and attempted to talk him down and calm the situation. Jericho raised his arms and flexed to show his dominance to the officers and stated, quote, don't you know who I am? And similar phrases one would expect from an inebriated individual. He was then arrested by the officers. I believe he was released when he sobered up a few hours later, but this tickled me to the end. So,
But we does that Jericho not surprise you with behavior?
just the idea of him being like, don't you know who I am? I mean, he's in better shape than he was a year ago, but he still is not in great shape.
Yeah, I just see him sitting in a Belfast jail cell doing the armbar promo.
Yeah. Anyways, that's a riot. I just think that's hysterical. So Jericho still knows how to party.
Sounds like a classic Jericho story.
His
Jericho.
kids must be proud. That's all I gotta say.
But a little bit off what we talked about with the titles, according to Sports Illustrated, it's Triple H who wanted the titles changed and wanted to freshen up the look of the product, especially after the draft. So, I mean, I can see that being if Triple H is trying to put himself down as a guy in charge, maybe now freshening up the titles and make it look like it's him, whether it's him or not. Who knows in the behind the scenes, but I kind of believe that a little bit. I can see but Triple H has always liked the World Heavyweight title.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always has liked that title. So for him to bring it out again and refreshing that up, looks like it now to do it in the women's side of it as the women's world title. I mean, I like the look. Sounds like it's Triple H.
I like that all four of them don't look similar now. I would have gone a step further and made the women's belts even look different from the men's belts, but it is definitely better.
That's good. We always seem to talk about TV news. WWE is outside of the negotiated windows of both NBC and Fox. So now apparently WWE is looking for a big win with Disney, not on ESPN because it would take away from the real sports coverage, but looking to put it on FX. So which used to be owned by Fox, but now is owned by Disney. So I mean, I don't know if I like that one. I mean, I guess cable TV is cable TV. There's still talk, obviously, of Amazon. They can drop any money.
Terrible
on
idea.
it.
Terrible idea. Don't do it, WWE.
I couldn't agree. I would not be shocked. I think what we're seeing here with the TV deal is I think you're starting to see UFC and Endeavor starting to throw their muscle around. They already have a lot of agreements with ESPN, with the UFC. The whole idea of WWE teaming with Endeavor was they can bring a lot of resources that WWE couldn't, a lot of contacts, a lot of things. I think what you're seeing is now UFC and Endeavor saying, you know what? We can get a good deal with ESPN or ABC or Disney, and we can put you guys on a better spotlight and match it up with the content of UFC. So I'm starting to think you may be seeing a little bit of that. So I would not be shocked if we see a Disney deal.
It's outside the window. Are we shutting down NBC, Universal, and Fox? I mean, I think Fox is out, but do we think NBC, Universal's off the table now, given the fact that the window's closed?
So here's what I think. If I had to guess, I'm guessing WWE wants an absurd number, rather it's legitimately or not a legitimate number. I think they want an absurd amount. NBC's obviously going to say no, like no, we don't want that, and we're gonna take our chances with the window open and see if we get any offers. Because remember, it could backfire on WWE.
It could, because if they have to go back to Universal.
Yeah, WWE could open this window up to everyone else now, and no one gives an offer, and now NBC can be like, well, look who's back.
They must be pretty confident to let
I
the
feel
window
like
close.
it's going to be, so I think you're going to see 2024. I think Fox is definitely out.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is shocking to me. I mean, they're dropping, even 2.3 is a good rating on a Friday. They just may not live content, the cost of live content is so expensive right now because it's actually cheaper than doing a production style show. Rather it's a TV or a sitcom or a game show, whatever. Live content is very, very hard hard to get right now. So it's expensive.
We haven't talked about this before, but the writers' strike going on. Obviously, WWE writers aren't part of the union or anything, but will that have any bearing, you think, going forward with the product?
I mean, it definitely
It could.
limits the pool. You could potentially bring in a union writer that wants to leave the union and write for WWE. I mean, we can think of actors, right, that write
Right.
for WWE and producers and stuff that have been a part of it.
Could this eventually extend to production, like camera handlers
I
and
read,
stuff
I
like
forget
that?
the reasoning, but I
don't
read
think so.
I read it has no impact on WWE.
No, it doesn't. I think it has something to do with wanting a share. Like the writers don't make any money on the back end when something does well.
Yeah, there's something I forget. I can look it up. There's a specific reason why they don't get paid like the other writers, and I forget what the reasoning was. But I think it won't hit that. But one thing to think about is that if the writer's strike was going on for quite a while, it's now beneficial to have
Sure, that
content.
content.
You know what I mean? Like that's content that can still be live every week.
If I was Vince McMahon,
Um,
I'd be paying into that union fund.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
if it keeps going 6,
but,
8, 10 months.
I mean, we're talking 2024. I'd be very shocked. I think the writer's strike last time went like 8 months. It went 8 or 9 months.
Yeah, they lost a season.
Yeah, and they lost. I think they had like a quarter of a season.
Right.
So I don't think it's going to go that long again. But you know, you're looking at potential down the road. This is why you could have. This is the benefit of having WWE live content is that you don't have to deal with a writer's strike. Yeah.
Right.
That's a little plus. I don't think it's going to play much of an impact. Money in the Bank right now is rumored to have 7 matches. I don't know what all those matches are going to be, but the card is looking at having 7.
It's building. They're building. They're setting up Money in the Bank.
And then we weren't able to talk about last week. And Braun Strowman went out with an undisclosed injury.
Neck.
Yep.
It was a neck. Yeah,
And
they
it's-
fused his C4, C5 vertebrae. He lost 15% function in one of his legs. He's going to be out a long time. Something about big guys and neck problems. I
Do
don't
they
know
think
what
he
it
can get
is.
full mobility back, or is it like he's done?
Yeah, no. He had numbness. I guess it was really scary. Like it kind of hit out of nowhere. He had a lot of numbness, and then they took some scans, and I didn't see the scans or anything, but I saw an interview with him, and he was like, I was scared when I saw what had happened. And they went in. It was day surgery. They fused him up. He was out like the next day walking around, and he said his legs he had lost like 15% functionality in one leg and had numbness in the other leg. And it's going to be a road to recovery. I mean, we're looking at 6+ months before
Hopefully
we
with
see Strowman
rehab
again.
and you know he can get.
Yeah,
that
I'd say probably WrestleMania is probably
Yeah.
the next time we're really going to see him.
Um, Why don't you do the next one? Because I can't stand Ryback. I think he's a. I can't stand.
Oh,
him.
come on.
If there's
No
one
love
guy
for the
I don't
big
want to
man.
watch. I've never had any patience for Ryback.
Careful, he follows us on Twitter now.
Does he? Oh, well.
He's a fan. He likes to wrestle with the business. Speaking of wrestling with the business, nobody has wrestled with the business more than Ryback lately. He just won a trademark court battle. He basically got to trademark his own name, which was a big win for
How long
him.
was that going on? 10 years.
A long time it's gone
He's
on.
been out 7 years. He's been out of the WWE 7 years.
I think he sued before that, didn't he?
No, not before that.
No.
I think the trademark. No, he was out for injuries. The trademark issue, I think, dates back almost 2 years
Oh, okay.
that they've actually been in court, and he actually won in court. And then there's all these interesting claims where he's like, WWE's working with Twitter to like shadow ban me and stuff like that, and he's calling all these people out. And I mean, he is literally swinging at everybody. Like I saw he called a guy out on Twitter, like, let's get on, Twitter Spaces right now. We're gonna talk publicly and openly about this. I'm like, I don't recognize that guy. I click on it. He has 20 followers. Ryback does not care. Like 20 followers, 2 million followers. He's going after you if you call him out.
I
How many
start-
do they have, 20 followers?
This one guy that he was going with had 20,
Oh.
19, had 19 followers. And I'm like, oh my God, maybe we can get an interview with Ryback because we have way more than 20.
I started listening to it, but I haven't gotten through it. But apparently, he went on Stevie Ray's podcast.
Yes.
And kind of just let it all out.
Yes.
And I haven't gotten through it yet, but
Which is interesting because a lot of it has to do with Booker T.
I didn't know
Yeah.
Stevie Ray had a podcast.
Yeah.
he does a huge following too.
Yeah.
The conflicts these guys get
Vince
themselves
Russo was
into,
on
I
it.
just,
Is apparently on it too, asking him questions.
Yeah. Russo, yeah.
Like I said, I haven't gotten there yet, but
So, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, he's one of the few people that has fought the behemoth that is WWE and managed to come out on top. So, and he's recovering. He's doing this weird wet suction treatment that he's saying is he's going to come back. Like he's trying to create this groundswell of like Twitter madness to get like him to go up against Goldberg or something like that for a retirement match.
At All In.
And he's trying to pitch like him coming back. Obviously AEW is really the only home. Like if he went to anywhere else, he'd be way too big for it, I think. But yeah, I mean he claims he's going to be back by the end of the summer, so we'll see.
Oh boy. AEW Forbidden Door. Matt, what we got for matches coming up on that now?
So 4 matches have been announced. Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada. Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay for the IWGP United States Championship.
Match of the night.
That's going to be awesome.
Match of the night.
And then on this week's Dynamite, they announced the IWGP World Championship match, Sonata versus Jungle Boy. And the AEW World Championship, MJF versus Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Do we think the championship's going anywhere?
No.
No.
But which MJF immediately was like, I'm not going to wrestle some jobber from a rinky-dink company, so...
So they're extending
Typical-
that out. They're gonna make him wait a little bit.
Typical
Earn his
MJF fashion.
shot, probably, or
That's the right way to do it.
all right.
No, but it should be a good show.
All right. Jeremy has a rant to go. I can't wait to hear this one.
The bloodline must be stopped. End the madness. We've had enough. The dark days of the bloodline must be behind us. Look, when the bloodline started, and for a long time afterwards, it was the most compelling and interesting story in WWE, which frankly doesn't say much. It's very clear that Paul Heyman basically did all of the writing. And after a while, the fans came around, and WWE realized that they had a winning horse, and they wanted to jump on the back of that horse, and they wanted to ride it into the sunset. Here's the problem. The sun keeps getting further away. We're running out of interesting things to do. I said last week that the plot had gotten even more interesting since they pulled the titles out of it, and what do they do to pay me back? The very next day, that very night, they bring a title back into it for no reason whatsoever. And it's created this environment in which nobody's in control of anything, right? We don't know what's going to happen week to week. And I think we're in a situation where it's making the other champions look weak because they're basically at the beck and call of whatever the tribal chief wants to do. So 3 months ago, it was ZKO taking their tag championships and fighting off this person, fighting off that person from the bloodline, and these different combinations. It's Sikoa and it's Jay, and it's Jay and it's Jimmy, and it's Jimmy and it's Roman, and it's Roman and it's Sikoa. It's every combination we could possibly think of. Now we've moved on to the United States Championship. What are we going to do there? You got Austin Theory that just shows up. There's no story, there's no anything. The night opens and the curtain jerk is Paul Heyman saying to Jey Uso, hey, you've got a match tonight. What? Says Austin Theory. What is going on? I mean, what is going on? I don't understand. The WWE is becoming a song with one note. It's a song of one note, and it's the bloodline note. Nobody gives a crap about Money in the Bank. Nobody's following any of the matches. None of the matches are really interesting at all. You have an entire pay-per-view coming up that's surrounding one particular match that's supposed to earn somebody a chance at the title. Nobody gives a damn about it. Nobody cares about it at all. The matches aren't interesting, they aren't engaging, and the storyline's getting really tiresome, and I think the bloodline needs to end. The bloodline needs to be done. It's gotten too big for itself. It's collapsing under the weight of its own inadequacies, and it's time to go. We need to move on.
Well, what did I say on one of our very first episodes? Cody Rhodes not going over at WrestleMania and continuing their bloodline story was the biggest mistake they made.
Yeah, I
There
mean,
you go.
I think you were ahead of your time. I didn't agree with you at the time,
That
but I
has
agree.
nothing to do with Cody Rhodes in particular, but if we're talking about the bloodline storyline, it was getting old before WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And now
Once
it's-
Sami Zayn broke
and,
away. That
and
was
now
the
it's just proven that it's overstayed its welcome.
Yeah.
It's like the NWO when it had 20 members.
Well,
in
no,
it.
this is what I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, are they contractually obligated to give guys breaks? Because what's going on right now between Jay and Jimmy and Solo, and that's interesting. That's interesting stuff. And for some reason, they need to bring Austin Theory into it to do a title defense for no reason whatsoever. Like, as if you can only be groomed to be the head of the table if you're holding the United States Championship at the same time. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. They're grasping at straws. They're trying to add complexity and consequence to the matches by just sprinkling the title in. But really, what does it do? It makes Austin Theory look like a chump. Like he just showed up. And now what do you do with the face? You've got Austin Theory heel against tweener, is what he is right now, because we don't know what he is. 2 weeks ago he was a face, but now we don't know. Has he turned? Has he not really turned?
Was he the only one on SmackDown?
Yes. It was him and Paul Heyman.
That's it.
Solo was there for a half second, I think.
Great value Samoa Joe.
Yeah, yes, thank you. Yes. Great value Samoa Joe. It's like I don't it's time for it to end. Or get back to the basics. Like the story is interesting
you.
without the titles.
Thank you.
You don't need it. Get back to the story. It's time. It's
This,
time.
okay, let me say, this is the greatest storyline in the history of WWE. The
In the
Bloodline.
history.
I'm telling you right now, it is
Wow.
the greatest storyline in what they've accomplished in the history of WWE.
Are
Now,
you fucking kidding me?
now, it's been.
Ring
what
that
other
bell.
what are you gonna tell me? There's another faction that's better? You're gonna say DX?
Yeah, way better.
This is accomplishing a lot in the
Heart
current time.
Foundation. They only ran for 6 fucking months before Brett left.
What they see, here's the reality. The reality is they have a great opportunity to end the storyline, and we've talked about it. I'm not even going to say his name because we've talked about it too much. They have a great way of ending this whole family storyline, and I'm hoping that's what they're going towards. In the meantime, this great thing is getting stale, not because of them, but because of the writing. If the writing is better for them, first off, where's Roman? Like
He's
Roman's
a
got to be
part-timer,
here.
which is
He'll-
why you
he'll
shouldn't
be-
have the belt.
He'll be back tonight?
Okay, Roman's got to be on SmackDown like every. I'm sorry, if you're carrying that title, you have to be there. This is
why we made the other title.
Paul Heyman is a genius. Can we all agree on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Paul Heyman has put this together, and this is where it's like. Side note: this is like when like an actor becomes a Marvel superhero and they want to give up the role. Like, why the fuck you want to do that? It's your greatest role ever. Why do you want to give it up? Like, carry it as long as you can. If I'm Roman and I'm the Usos and I want to keep this storyline going as long as possible because this Paul Heyman is putting us on the map and is creating a great story. So why is Roman not there?
Because he doesn't want to be. He's a
why are the
part-timer.
Usos totally? They should all
In
be
real
there.
life, yes, we know he's a part-timer. In storyline, we don't know why.
The
he's
reality is, it's the storylining. I'm sure it's WWE playing something where they don't want them there or they're interfering. I partly agree that it's starting to get stale, but it's getting stale for, I think, the different reasons. And that is, it's not getting stale because they're there. It's getting stale because the writing of them is not good.
No, look at you.
If the writing was good, it'd be fantastic entertainment every night with that group. Sorry.
There's nothing shameful about it. Like, you just run out of material. Like, there's not a... You run out of uranium, and then eventually the nuclear power plant just dissipates off. And that's what's happening here. There's a momentum to the story. My real problem is that, one, they aren't focusing on the interesting aspect of the story, and they're trying to pepper in these titles to make things interesting when they don't need it. And two, there were 3 video vignettes, 1 long in-ring promotion, and a main event during peak Money in the Bank qualification time. Like,
on a
this...
2-hour episode rather than a 3-hour.
Yeah, it's
Raw.
like you don't... This is the show that you don't need filler. Like, why are you taking... You could actually add some consequence and some interesting storylines and some rivalries in the Money in the Bank stuff and actually make it interesting, given the fact that it's your next premium live event in 2 weeks in England. But they're not doing that. Instead, we get to listen to Paul Heyman gossip over Jimmy in front of Jay. And we get to see Jay take on... For a title we know he wasn't going to win. We knew he wasn't going to win. There was no question there.
And I think just to clarify what I said, when I say it's the greatest of all time.
Oh, you can't backpedal that.
And
now.
in the current landscape, that's why I'm saying it's the best. Look at DX and look at what they could get away with back, and you can't get away with that now. You can't. You look at all what you think is the greatest factions or the greatest. You say, oh, back in the day, Well, they can't do that now on TV. They can't do blood. They can't swear. They can't do
a different time.
the women coming out and what's his face, Jerry going crazy. You can't do that anymore. so when I look at what is it, and I guess I'm going to put it as a faction. What's the greatest faction to? They've accomplished a lot, not being able to do what DX could back in the day. They just couldn't do, and that's why DX was. Am I wrong with that? The DX entertaining for stuff that you couldn't do now. You can't do it. Have 3/4 of stuff they did. You can't do now on TV.
Sure.
Yeah, that's. I don't think I would
So that's
call
why I
it-
say they're the best, because they've made something good out of so many restrictions on TV now. It's an entertaining faction.
It's
I'm not-
interesting.
yeah, no, I'm not saying that they're not, but say that they're the greatest was my like, whoa.
It's a tough time to be the greatest, and I think. I mean, you have to look at the different. You got to look at the different times and the different the decades. I guess
I'm a little confused now. Are you talking storyline or are you talking group?
both.
Both.
They're not the best group.
Hey, well, do you want me to switch it? Do you want me to say faction?
The storyline.
I mean, I think faction. They're the greatest faction of all time. Definitely. For
I mean,
sure.
I call it one of
The
the top
greatest-
5.
I think they're the
storylines.
greatest faction of all time. That
They're
let me-
a stable, not a faction.
okay.
Watch
We
Falls
talked
Count
about
anywhere.
it.
All right.
2 episodes
Stable.
ago.
They're the greatest stable of all time.
Clearly,
You're-
probably the
you're-
most stable.
I mean, maybe
over the Horsemen, over the NWO, over
retraction. I'll take away greatest storyline. They're the greatest.
the greatest.
Stable.
Okay. That makes more sense.
All right. I think I was just
Anyways.
spitting out words and I was saying that. So
I don't know. Maybe they can use Money in the Bank as an opportunity to take a big breather and come back to the table with something legitimate without having to like take over the entire brand.
I mean,
like have
I
nothing else
assume
interesting happen.
it's leading towards Roman and Solo versus the Usos, right?
It's just nothing else interesting is happening.
I think they have.
It's sucking all the air out of the room, and so none of the other fires can burn.
I think they have long-term plans for this, and they're trying to figure out what to do in the short term. They have long-term plans, whether it's SummerSlam, WrestleMania. They got long-term plans, obviously, and they're trying to fill all these stupid shit with short-term plans.
I
that
think
just don't make sense.
I think
Right.
their original plan was to bring The Rock in. His Rock originally early last year was scheduled to appear at this year's WrestleMania.
and I think it's the plan now.
It fell apart because The Rock backed out because he couldn't get himself in ring shape. So I think that's the end game. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think The Rock is going to, as much as we would all love to see The Rock come out and do a run with these guys, he's not going to give up a movie deal or any other.
Have you seen his movie schedule? He has none.
But
He
still,
has none. I really think it's on the table now. Like he is. I think he's now
But-
recreating his career, taking
but
a little
that-
bit of a
but
dull spot, and it's time to start.
But he's also The Rock that can change like that.
Yeah.
And he's not going to turn down a movie where he makes $200 million for a WrestleMania.
Not in the next 9 months, though. The movie business moves slower than that.
Yeah, if he signs on to a movie right now, it's a
Especially with
year
a
out
writer's
before
strike.
he films.
Right in the middle of a writer's strike, yeah.
So I think
But at the
it's
same time, that writer's strike ends, they sign him on to a movie, and he signs a contract where he can't get hurt, and he needs to be training for this movie. WrestleMania's out, regardless.
I mean, who knows? With
You
the
know.
injection of cash, maybe Endeavor can afford to pay him the kind of money he would
if
make.
there was ever a
Right.
chance he was coming back, this is it now.
I mean,
WrestleMania
the big
40.
4-0. The big 4-0.
He has nothing
Yeah.
signed. He literally has nothing signed besides what he just said with the Fast and He has nothing signed up movie wise.
Well, I mean, that's
Especially
great.
and then
and
the writer. I didn't think of the
I
writer's
hope-
strike.
That's great, and I hope it happens. But again, he was signed for
No.
39,
Yeah.
and at the last minute, he pulled out. The very last minute.
That's what she said.
And then if you have Cody win Money in the Bank, then what's going to happen? He's in the middle of it now. When's that going to get used? You know?
Well, again, this is back to episode 1. They made the mistake by not putting it on Cody and moving on from.
All right.
Let's move on.
Thanks for letting me vent, guys. Jeff Hardy's wrist is sore. So this is becoming a pattern now of these videos leaking on the internet of WWE superstars wandering their way with their hood up, and it feels a little staged, honestly, with their hood up and their sunglasses on, huddling away like the Unabomber, and then somebody with the camera approaches them with a stack of things to sign that they've cleverly hidden away. And here's poor Jeff Hardy signing his name and signing his name and signing his name, and now there's this big internet outcry over how unfair it is and how these guys are profiting off. There's these succubas that are just profiting off of the fame and fortune of these people. And my position is no. Like, it's not hard at all. As a matter of fact, if you want to maintain the value of your name, if you want to maintain the value of your signature, you should be limiting the number of times that you sign stuff. You shouldn't be signing hundreds of items. You should say, I'll sign 3 things for you. Or sign Mickey Mouse if you think someone's going to be an a-hole and put 10 or 12 different things in front of you.
Isn't the rule like you sign one person thing and move on?
I don't see. For some reason, these wrestlers do not feel okay to say no after the second.
Well,
signature.
it's about branding.
Here's the thing, and this is Eddie Trunk talks about this a lot on his radio show because it happens to lots of musicians too. What happens is you get these guys, they show up, they'll corner you in a restaurant or at an airport with pictures, pick guards for guitars, and they'll just ask you to sign 100 things, and then they'll go on the internet and they'll
hawk it.
And they'll hawk it. I think like what's happening now is giving this era where everything's on a cell phone, everything's being recorded now.
Right.
How do you say no? And because it's very easy for someone to, you say no, I'm not signing anything. Someone edits that phone camera, and then all of a sudden your reputation's wrecked because you were an asshole, or you were racist, or you were this, or you were that, because they can edit to fit their own narrative. So if you're Jeff Hardy, what do you do?
I think if you're Jeff Hardy, you sign to him and you say, no thanks, man, have a great day.
Sorry,
But I
gotta
think
catch
there's
my
a little
plane.
bit of, I know this from our business.
Or ask them a question.
Right.
What's my middle name? You don't know, you're not a fan, go away. Or whatever.
Autograph signings with wrestlers, there's a business to it.
What's my finishing
It's
move?
anywhere you go, rather,
Right.
and I know that, we do the pop figures, there is when those wrestlers go into an official autograph signing, they go into a hotel room, and they have
stacks.
tables.
Yeah, stacks.
So there's a little bit of, and they make money on that.
Right.
So there's a little bit of Jeff Hardy not wanting to sign that because, I'm go pay the right way where I get a little bit of money out of it. And then two, there's also the more Jeff Hardy stuff out there sometimes makes him look better too. Like, hey, if I sign these are all cool Jeff Hardy pops that are going out that have my signature on it. There's a little bit of branding to it too. So I don't really know how to take that. Do you say
Having
no?
an official signing is different than somebody
Right.
coming up to you in an airport, though.
But and here's the other thing too, and it's one thing to sign something for a fan, and if they allow you to personalize it. If the guy's asking it not to be personalized, that's the red flag. If he just wants the name, he's probably hawking it.
Yeah, I mean,
If
listen, Alexa Bliss didn't mince words. When this happened to her a couple of months ago, she said, we know who these people are. They think we don't know who they are. It's like, then why are you signing them?
Yeah.
If someone comes up to you and it's clear that they aren't a fan and they've got a stack of 9 boxes folded down flat of your pop figure and they're asking you to sign each one, I don't think it's rude to sign 2 of them and go, if you'd like me to sign a third, answer this question. What's my finishing move?
Well,
you
yeah,
don't know? Okay, have a nice day.
You
You're
look at
clearly
this
not
way,
a
though,
fan.
too. You gotta look at it like, first off, you could always say, like, you could always have a policy, what's your name? And I always write that on there. This happens in everything.
Right.
Whether it's anytime someone's gonna get
Sure, you can do that,
a
yeah.
celebrity, it's always gonna get reposted, I'm sure. 75% of the time, it's gonna get put for sale. But you gotta look at the different wrestlers. If you're Jeff Hardy, right, you have official autograph signings, and you make money off of that. If you're a wrestler that doesn't have that, and you can't get, you're probably trying to sign as many as you can, because then that goes out, and when people log on to like eBay and they type wrestler and your name comes up, oh wow, that's cool. Or hey, it makes him look a little bit. It gets his branding and his image out. But if you're like the Undertaker or Triple H or Seth Rollins, you guys, and I know they have official autograph signings, or they don't sign that shit probably, because you know what? There's methods where you can go professionally and get that done, and I get 40% of those sales. But younger wrestlers who don't have that capability and can't get those type of events,
Or fly commercial.
they're probably signing whenever they can. Hey, they're working on. Hey, I want to get my name out there. I'm trying to build my image, where eventually I can start charging for my autographs. But I don't think Jeff Hardy has that issue. Jeff has a lot of official. So I don't. I'm shocked that he's doing that.
Well, but here again,
Maybe even Alexa Bliss too.
here's another hypothetical situation. Given the media age that we are in, all right. So a guy comes up, he's got the camera phone on him. Asks Jeff Hardy, sign these stack of photos for me. Jeff says no. Keeps going. The guy keeps following him. Keeps pushing. So the point, and we all know Jeff Hardy's had issues with the law and has a reputation. But, this guy pesters Jeff to the point where Jeff maybe gives him a little shove, knocks him on his ass. Hey, leave me the fuck alone.
Right.
And then, the next day on the internet, you see one guy walking up with a picture asking for Jeff Hardy's autograph, and he gets knocked on his ass. without the context of what happened leading up to that. Now his reputation's yet again ruined. So you can't tell me that stuff like that's not on these guys' mind, because you see it all the time.
What they should do is someone comes up with a stack, sign each one differently. Have a different signature for everything they give you.
I would say automatically personalize it. Hey, I can send it. What's your name? What's your name? Oh, Adam. Hey, no problem,
that's,
Adam.
and that's like what Slash and like Ace Frehley will do. They'll, if the guy doesn't want it personalized, they won't sign it.
Right.
You know.
Which makes sense.
All right, let's move on. What are we talking about now? The Raw roster.
Yeah, so Raw has a roster problem. What the hell's going on with Raw? So
Heel is going on.
I
Nice.
noticed the same thing that you noticed, Adam, when watching Raw this week. And so I went in and I crunched some numbers, and I looked at who on the Raw and SmackDown roster is currently working, meaning has been on television, because there have been a couple dark matches, has been on television basically since WrestleMania. And who's been out because they're injured, because they're not getting a push, because whatever reason. And I found some interesting things. The first thing I found is that only 68% of the Raw roster is actually working on air versus 86% on SmackDown. The rosters themselves are split pretty evenly, heel-face, almost exactly 50-50.
Oh, Raw's not bigger.
But only, yeah, it's a little bit bigger. It's maybe 10 or 12 talents larger. But only 50% of faces on Raw are working versus 86% of heels. So when you look at the roster itself, it looks like a 50-50 split, heel-face. But when you look at who's actually working, it's very, very disproportionate heel. All the faces are either not on the screen, or they're injured, or they're on a break and they're out on hiatus. So versus 86% of faces are working on SmackDown and 100%. So it's a much more balanced product, not just with what's on the screen, but the dynamic, that balance between heel face is way more in. So I think it feels intentional to me.
Like they want more bad guys on TV?
It's not. I can't imagine that it's an accident
I think
that they're doing this.
I
Smaller roster sizes increase the risk of injury,
right.
which causes more injuries, which creates more risk because your roster shrinks, which creates more injuries. And I think that that's how Raw got to be where it is. Because when you look at it, all the tons of people on Raw are out for injuries.
Is it injuries or just out?
I mean, some of them are guys that they just don't want to push. Guys and gals that they really don't care about pushing. And some of it is, Braun Strowman, who's clearly out for an injury.
Right.
And then there's guys like Drew McIntyre, where it's like, I don't know what the hell's going on with him.
He's injured.
So there's a few,
Johnny Gargano's out for an
he's
injury.
injured.
There's a few random situations like Drew McIntyre. He's out obviously because of a contract dispute. There's a few of those, but I think really what it comes down to, I think the faces are more marketable, whether it's a commercial deal or a TV deal or marketing outside of. I mean, I prefer heels myself, but I think faces tend to have more projects outside of WWE than heels. And I also think, when you talk a larger roster, we've talked about this before, where WWE now kind of has an open policy where wrestlers they encourage a little bit more time off than they did back in the day. You see Charlotte Flair going away. You see, rather it's having a kid or rather it's I think you start to see where a lot of people are coming and going because they are allowing wrestlers more time off, and that's what allows the bigger rosters. Now, your percentage with heel and faces, I'm a little baffled on that. I think it's maybe that the faces are just more marketable. They're doing more things outside of WWE than
I don't know.
the heels.
What's Dexter Lumis doing?
Yeah.
What's Akira Tozawa doing?
Well, the question would be:
What's
Are they?
Apollo Crews
Here's
doing?
my question:
That was the dark match.
Are they at the show?
They
Are
were
they
on-
at the show not being
A
used?
few of them.
Dexter versus Akira Tozawa was the dark match
Yep.
on the show we went to in Albany. We couldn't remember what that first dark match was.
Yep, that's
So-
what it was.
what
And
that
the
tells
second
me
And it
one
was
is-
a damn good match.
And the second one was Candice LeRae versus Tegan Knox.
What that tells me is not enough storylines, not enough writing being done,
Right.
not enough creativity.
So it just struck me because the SmackDown, in my opinion, is a higher quality brand right now. The stories are more interesting. As much as I hate that the Bloodline's taking everything over, I think since WrestleMania, it's been the stronger brand. And I think this is the reason why. I think you did a brand split, and everyone on SmackDown is working. Everyone on SmackDown is working, except for Jaquan Wilde and Bobby Lashley. Everybody else is working. Oh, and Tamina. Everybody else has been on screen. versus you got all these people that are missing from Raw for one reason or another. And it's a huge proportion of the faces. And so we talked about the heels, things getting tired, what's going on. I think that's exactly what's going on. There's too many heels and not enough faces.
That could be too.
You can't. You can't create any. There's nobody for anybody to fight against because everybody's out injured. And so really, you can only have as many storylines as your smallest roster. Doesn't matter how many heels you have. If you only have 10 faces, then you only have 10 storylines.
Is there a thing to where the faces are getting used more, or they're taking more time off than the heels?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that it's creating this issue, this vicious cycle of, oh, someone got hurt, the roster shrinks. Well, we'll keep going without bringing anybody up or pushing anybody new, which means that you've got guys wrestling 3 weeks in a row with 1 week off versus wrestling every other week.
I mean, Cody Rhodes every week, Seth Rollins every week.
And it creates an injury. It creates an injury situation.
Yeah.
And then it perpetuates itself because then one of the faces gets injured, the heels stay the same because they're fine. Now you've got to spread that across another face. Okay, so Braun Strowman just went out for an injury. Somebody must have stepped up and wrestled the matches that he was going to wrestle, and it must be a face because he was a face when he went out. So then now their risk of injury goes up.
By the way, kudos to Cody Rhodes for being on every episode. Yeah. I mean, I actually when that deal took place, I assumed it was to
the point where he's getting called out by Finn Balor.
You're a bad dad. It'd be a classic. He's here there for 3 months and goes away for a couple months and back. Like he's actually been on. I mean, I know he's been injured for a long time. He has time to make up, but like he's been on every. I think that's that's great.
All the problems we saw if we went back to the 1989 mentality of you go out there and wrestle or you lose your spot. I don't care if your leg's falling off.
I agree.
That would make for a good show. I'd watch someone's leg fall off. That'd make for a damn good show. Anyways, I thought it was an interesting thing. Maybe in 6 months or a year or something, I'll crunch the numbers again and see what happens. But I think that really drives home why the product is getting bland. Because if you're not gonna use great on-air talent, Dexter Lumis, Akira Tozawa, if you're not gonna bring those guys up and get them time in front of the camera, then that's going to increase the stress on Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens.
I'm sorry, but how much of it is work ethic of the wrestlers? I mean, it seems like to me at AEW, those guys want to go out every week, improve themselves, and go out and improve their brand, improve their image. I see a different personality at WWE where it's like, I don't really need to do that.
Do
you feel that a little bit? I mean,
there might be some of that somewhere. I don't know if that's the prevailing feeling.
Or is that WWE's fault for not allowing their own wrestlers to come out? I mean, it seems like everyone's just kind of like, well,
I think they look at a guy like Akira Tozawa and they say, I don't care, he's 5'7".
Right, I think
he
it's
can't
more
make
that.
it. That's what I think. Oh, I don't like that he's bald. The old Vince McMahon mentality of you don't have the look.
Right.
And no matter how good you are, that's why Hook can never go to WWE. No. There have been talk that WWE is really interested in Hook. He should stay as far away from there as he possibly can.
Yeah.
Because he's a grade A talent, but he's 5'7". Mm-hmm. So nobody's going to care about him. Anyways. All right, so last one. I'm going to skip the next one, and I'm going to jump right to story because I saw this post on the internet, and I think it touches on something that we've been talking about for the last few weeks here, and it really kind of hit that nerve and said something that we haven't said on the show. So I'm going to read it and just get your guys' thoughts. It says, I don't know who's going to bother reading this, but I just need to vent about this real quick. For the last couple of months, I've genuinely tried my hardest to get into watching Dynamite and Rampage, and after this week, I've realized it's just not for me. I'm not going to deny that they put on amazing matches, but that's all that they give, and it's tiring. Great for the occasional watch, but there's just nothing for me to grasp on character-wise. The few people in here who know me are full aware that I'm a WWE guy and I'm not shy about it, and it got me into wrestling. What got me into wrestling was the storytelling. I watch wrestling for the storytelling, and I'm sure I'm not alone. I was fully on board with this company in the beginning when Jericho first started talking about it on his podcast. The constant shots at WWE, disgruntled ex-WWE fans latching themselves onto the company for the sole purpose of hating on WWE is sad. And it gives the fans a bad rep. Tony Khan just being incompetent when it comes to running management, the weekly product's lack of build until like weeks before the pay-per-view, and then there's just so much holding this company back in my eyes. So basically what they're saying is he doesn't want more wrestling. He wants better wrestling, which goes back to the Mr. Tito. Yep, it goes exactly back to the Mr. Tito. Don't give us more, give us better. And I thought that his... it's kind of the convergence of several things we've said on this show in the past, right? The convergence of why isn't AEW doing as well as WWE when we know they have a great product, and we aren't the market. We are the market that can appreciate a good wrestling match. But if you want to appeal to 2, 3, 4, 5 million people, you have to have story development. Story development takes time. It takes development. It takes writers. It takes all the things that AEW isn't interested in providing at this time, and it's the reason why they're stuck at 1 million and they can't get above it.
If think about, I totally agree. Wrestling, you need to have story to make it really enjoyable.
That's all the bloodline is. The wrestling is mediocre.
You think about some of the greatest moments. I mean, the first two that popped to my mind was go back to old school WrestleMania 3, Hogan slamming Andre. The match sucked, but that moment, that story of finally being able...
The build of it was incredible.
Right. And then the other one I was thinking of was Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair, Ric Flair's retirement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember anything
The
in
kick.
that match except for, I'm sorry, I love you, super kick, done. And that story is what everyone remembers from that match. It completely, I mean, you can have, I love AEW, I love the athleticism, but I agree, if they had more story, they would be killing it.
It's why I've said week after week after week, AEW needs to focus on one show and make the best goddamn wrestling show that they can possibly make and not worry about Rampage or anything else. They need 2 or 3 years of producing the best show every fucking week that they possibly can, and then move on from there.
How much better would that curtain jerk have been had they taken a couple of weeks or a month to put some story
MJF
behind
and Adam Cole,
behind MJF and Adam Cole, and then put it as a main event at whatever. I don't care where you put it; it'll be great.
I mean, the ending of that match seems like the beginning of the storyline, honestly.
I mean, that's a hell of a way to start. It makes me really excited for what's coming next. But again,
Yeah, if they had built it better.
even the little pieces of story that they have within the matches. I was going on and on and on about how cool it was when it was like, do the right thing, Sammy. You got a kid on the way. Lay down, lay down. Like, that's a 10-second plot point, right, inside of a 30-minute match that was very interesting. Why can't you make it a 2-week or a 4-week match?
Right.
You know?
AEW has a lot of potential, a ton.
Certainly.
And I think right now it's Tony Khan's fault or not. I think things are rushed. I think things are. You got to get rid of the WWE element, right? You got to get rid of the we got to beat them. Let's do stuff differently. All the you got to get rid of it. Start running your own company. You know what I mean? Start running AEW. Don't care what WWE is doing. Don't try to beat them. Okay? Don't try to get all their ex-employees and their ex-fans. You can only get so many. When you talk about viewership, you can only get so many.
Make new fans.
Right. You can only get so many anti-WWE fans, right?
Right.
You're not going to keep getting... Like, maybe that's where it's not growing. You need to go and create your own fans, your own fan base. And, people who don't like WWE for one reason or another may start to see that AEW. Well, these storylines are going way too quick. Or they're starting to do these new rules. You got to build their own. Be your own. And AEW has so much potential. They got a good roster. They got good talent. They have a TV deal more than any other promotion to be able to get. Don't worry about WWE. You've gotten this much. You have the money, right? They have the money. They have the TV. Do your own thing. Tony, don't worry about trying to upbeat WWE every week and trying to make big announcements and just do your own thing. Like, look at WWE back in WCW days, right? They're getting their ass kicked. And then all of a sudden, simple storylines like the Rock versus McMahon Helmsley era and Stone Cold, and like those simple storylines started to make such a huge difference. And look what happened.
But you hit a good point. Take the WWE, but also take WCW out of it.
Yeah, that's true.
AEW trying to be
gets
WCW,
compared to WCW all the time, and a lot of that's due because they're on TNT and with Turner. But what WCW had that AEW didn't, they had a 20-30 year lineage of WCW with Crockett and Watts. Yeah. AEW does not have that.
Right.
AEW needs to make AEW.
Can we? I'll ask one question. What happened to TNA?
They're still going.
No. But what happened to them? Remember when they
the cash ran away. The
they
cash
tried to
ran-
beat
They tried
WCW,
to,
and that just didn't work.
and they
Right.
tried to compete with WWE.
They tried to bring Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan, and that just did not work.
But again, you know, if you are gonna, you know, even Eric Bischoff knew when he took over WCW that he couldn't like legit, like show for show with.
No, they had
You
to
know,
do
with-
something different.
He had to create something different, so he focused just on Nitro, and made Nitro the best fucking show he could make it. He didn't want to do Thunder. Turner forced Thunder on him.
Right.
He was happy just doing Nitro in his pay-per-views, and for 83 weeks they kicked ass because all they had to worry about was Nitro. You know, that's what AEW Dynamite. Make Dynamite the best fucking show you can
Right.
every single week.
And do your own thing. And I'm going to throw out just one last point. Sting. And I know I'm going to offend people here. Sting, where was he on WCW? Right? Front guy, main
top-
guy,
top
right?
of the-
He's the-
top of the
Did
card.
that
he's the
company
face.
fail against WWE?
Yeah.
It failed.
Eventually.
So why are we trying to bring Sting in to AEW?
Yeah, well,
Why are we going to try? How if Sting couldn't beat WWE? Okay, back in the day, why do we think he's going to do it now on AEW? He's not. Do
he's-
your own
no,
thing.
But
He's,
they're not
he's
using
a nostalgia pop.
they're not using Sting in AEW like they used him in 1993 either.
But they're bringing back too many people from the past that don't like WWE.
Arn
Move
Anderson.
on. Just do their own thing. Come up with new. Promote Adam Cole and don't do Sting.
Make
don't
new
do
fans.
Hulk Hogan. Don't
Make new
do.
fans. I like what you're saying.
Don't
Make new
do all
fans.
these old guys, both WCW and WWE from the past. You know, Bret Hart. We don't need just move on.
You've done
Bring-
the best you can.
Right.
Make new fans. That's the only way you can do it. The wrestling market is completely saturated, and the only if you want to get to 2 million, that means you need to make 1 million new fans because you
Right.
know that the WWE hatred only gets you to 1 million people.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. Anyways, I think that's it.
10 episodes done. I don't know where we stand after 10. I think we're pretty.
I think we're doing all right.
Yeah, that's all right. You
10.
gotta do the,
Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, follow us on Twitter at
Ty
Wrestle
Dillinger.
with Biz,
what was
please.
it? Perfect.
Perfect 10.
Yeah, the perfect.
Sorry, go ahead.
We're yippee yapping. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. Maybe it's not such a good finish. Anyways, check out Falls Count Anywhere, which drops every Monday. This week, we're giving the ladies some attention, which is great. Please subscribe on Insane Games TV on YouTube. Follow us on Twitch. Guys, you know where to find us. You keep watching. We'll keep wrestling with the business.